McHaddad. I'm reporting for Right Now, Oregon from Lebanon.
And I'm Sheri Brady, and I'm coming from Roseburg, Oregon.
Thank you for coming on, Sheri. First headline we're going to cover today, freshman rep Tracy Kramer has hosted her first town hall. She represents Salem, Oregon. She provided a little summary about everything that happened at that town hall.
So, who else was with her? Do you know who else was there? Because I heard it was really well attended.
Yeah, she actually had a few of her fellow state representatives there. I know Kevin Mannix was there, and then Senator Kim Thatcher were both there, and a couple of other local representatives.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the other town halls that are coming up. I know we had one here in Douglas County, and it was really, really great to hear about what they're doing. And I'm glad the session's over, but I'm glad they're keeping us informed. So what else is coming up?
Well, the next thing that happened was the anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Kevin McCarthy shared a great essay from Congressman Burgess Owens. He's a black Republican congressman from Utah, and he posted some really great words about his reflections on what the Dr. Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech meant to him.
That was an amazing speech. And if you can watch the video, I think if you look at the link on our website, you can actually watch the video, and it's pretty powerful. So,
yeah, it still matters.
Yes, it does.
Next up, Grants Pass Mayor Sarah Bristol is going to be facing a recall election on September 12th. If you go to the website, you can read a statement from her about it. You can read the recall petition's reason for recalling her, and you can read some information from the county clerk about the recall election schedule. Next up, Baker County Republicans are going to hold a Take Back Oregon event. It's going to be at the end of this month, and they're going to have some speakers, including Mark Thielman, to talk about, their goal is to start registering people to vote who aren't registered to vote yet.
It looks like you can get in if you have your student ID. You can get in for $1. So
Yeah.
We're really gearing this event towards students. And do you know the website they can go to if they want to find out more information? Should they just go to our website?
Yeah, if you go to our website, you can click over to the Baker County Republican website from there.
Okay, great. Well, that looks like a lot of fun, and it's coming up on September 29th and 30th in Baker City, Oregon.
That's the one. Next up, so several of our state senators have sued the Democratic Secretary of State, Yvonne Griffin-Ballard, over her interpretation of Measure 113. The ballot measure that was passed as written says that if you have more than 10 unexcused absences as a state legislator, you are not allowed to run in the next election after your term ends. The problem is that as written, it says the next election after your term ends. Well, the election happens before your term ends, so as written, it would say you could run for another election, but the election after that you couldn't run. But the Democratic Secretary of State has said, well, newspapers reported that differently. They said you're not allowed to run for re-election immediately. Because newspapers said that, therefore I'm going to make it illegal for senators to run again.
Well, I'm wondering how long this is going to take them to get this figured out. Is there going to be an election happening before they get this sorted out?
I think it's probably going to be sorted out sooner than later. So this had originally been filed in the Court of Appeals. That's a statewide judicial body, but both parties in the case, the senators and the Secretary of State's office, filed appeals with the Supreme Court of Oregon so that the Supreme Court can take it up immediately. The filing period to run for statewide office in Oregon has just opened, and everybody wants to get this figured out before then. So it's probably going to be resolved here pretty quickly.
Well, maybe we'll talk about this next week. I hope to see an update soon.
Yeah, me too. Next up, our wonderful new Congresswoman, Lori Chavez-DeRemer, introduced legislation to kill Oregon tolling permanently. She had introduced a bill a couple weeks ago that would make it introduced a bunch of regulatory hurdles to make it really difficult for states to start tolling freeways. This would make it just plain illegal to toll in Oregon.
So it's called the No Tolls on Oregon Roads Act.
That's the one.
Yeah. Well, I am in favor of that. I think that we need to fix our roads and take care of them, but I don't think we need to do additional tolling. I don't think that's the answer.
Yeah, I agree. Thoughts and prayers for our valiant House Majority Leader. Steve Scalise has announced a blood cancer diagnosis. He says it's treatable, but it's going to be, I think, probably about 9 months or so that he's going to be in treatment to survive this blood cancer. So just everybody, keep him in your prayers.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. So is he going to be taking some time off from his legislative duties or, I mean, wow.
The press release he put out makes it sound like he probably isn't going to be doing that. It sounds like he's going to be able to keep up a treatment regimen and continue on in his House Majority Leader duties.
Wow. Well, I'm definitely going to keep him in my prayers. That sounds like it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah. You can follow that with some really good news, though. The Biden administration was forced to amend the Waters of the United States regulation ruling. This was a really onerous regulation originally passed by the Obama administration that made a massive amount of bodies of water in the United States protected by the federal government. Even something as small as like an old mud puddle, that could be a problem if you take away that water, you take away that puddle, the feds can come down on you. So. Thankfully, the Supreme Court reversed a bunch of it, and the Biden administration was forced to change that regulation. And there was more information released this week about how they're going to change it.
Okay, well, I think we can find more information about that on our website, but that was called the Clean Water Act, I believe.
Yeah, so the Clean Water Act is what the Waters of the United States regulation was based on. The Biden administration, the Obama administration, both kind of went the extra mile, saying that there was more to the law than there really was, and the Supreme Court said, no, that's not really what the law said. You're not allowed to do all that. So they scaled back the regulation that came from the Clean Water Act. All right. The Salem City Council had a meeting this past week to talk about the payroll tax. A city councilor tried to have the council consider repealing it. The council decided to just let the ballot measure roll on. This was something that I really didn't. I have some complicated feelings on this one. So as a state employee, I work part-time in the legislature. This is something that was going to affect me. This was going to impact my payroll taxes, and it wasn't great. At the same time, what's happening in Salem and has been happening in Salem for a while is that the city on its own dime covers all the emergency calls that go on with state buildings over there. So if a state legislator has a heart attack and a city ambulance comes, the state of Oregon doesn't reimburse anybody in Salem for those costs. And they end up, taking up tens of millions of dollars of Salem's resources every year. So the city council said, hey, if the state's going to make us pay for their stuff, we're going to charge a payroll tax. And it was a bad solution to a bad problem that the state really needs to correct. But there's a ballot measure now to have the people vote on it. And rather than repealing it themselves, the city council decided to just allow the people to vote on this payroll tax this fall.
So I think they can watch this city council meeting if they go to our website.
Yeah, so if you go to rightnoworegon.com and you find this article, we have a link to, or the YouTube video of this meeting is on there. We also made sure that it's set to the timestamp. So once you click play on that, that'll start that part of the discussion immediately. The council meeting was a couple hours long, so we just made it convenient for anybody to watch just this discussion.
Okay, well, I know a lot of people all over the state were pretty interested in that, so they might want to take a look at that. What's next?
All right, we had our first dropout from the Republican presidential primaries. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez announced that he is no longer running for president.
I didn't know he was.
Yeah, that's been the number one thing I've heard from people when I say, hey, we had our first dropout. They're like, who on earth is that? He is actually one of two current or former mayors running for president right now. I don't think anybody can guess who the other one is. But I think that just kind of shows they really didn't have a shot anyway. I think Donald Trump is probably going to win the primary. I think that's probably what's going to happen, and everybody else is just kind of spinning their wheels at this point.
I think you're right. So what else is coming?
Well, there was some more action regarding Shemia Fagan's corruption investigations. So the Oregon GEC, Government Ethics Commission, voted for additional investigations of Secretary Shemia Fagan this week. If you go to our page, you can hear the audio from that meeting where the GEC voted on it and discussed the allegations. We also wrote down the text of the laws that they're investigating for people to look at themselves.
Okay, well, I think a lot of people are interested in following that, so I'm definitely going to go to our website and check it out.
Awesome. next up, so the House Revenue Committee received the quarterly state revenue forecast this week. And that is the meeting where they were also going to be talking about how much the kicker was going to be. So it looks like the kicker for Oregon taxpayers, the median amount is going to be $980. So I'm pretty excited for an extra $1,000 next year.
Yes, it is the largest kicker in our history, from what I understand. So I think it's almost double what it was last time.
That's right.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that. I'm glad we still get it. We're
Booyah.
still taxed, so maybe they can fix that.
That'd be nice. Let's see. Next up, Congresswoman Lori Chavez-DeRemer sent a two-page letter to Governor Tina Kotek regarding the fallout of Measure 110. Measure 110, was the massive, basically, drug legalization for the state of Oregon. They decriminalized the use of certain amounts of drugs or the possession of certain amounts of drugs, and it's just had a horrible impact on public safety and law enforcement. So Lori Chavez-DeRemer said, hey, there are some big problems. This federal government really needs to know what the state of Oregon is going to do about it.
I'm glad she's looking into that. I'm hoping that they just repeal that.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Just a straight repeal would be great. We did get some great statements from Tim Knopp and Vicki Breeze-Iverson. They're the respectively Senate and House Republican leaders on the quarterly state revenue forecasts. You can go and read their press releases about how they felt. Tim Knopp focused on housing and infrastructure, and Leader Breeze-Iverson focused a little bit more on public safety.
Okay, great. I will check that out.
Yep. Now, this I think is newsworthy, is that for the first time this cycle that I've seen, Donald Trump did not win a presidential straw poll. I thought that was a little funny. So the Young Republican National Convention occurred earlier recently in August, and Young Republicans from Oregon went there, and there was a straw poll of the members to see who they wanted to be the next president of the United States. And Ron DeSantis won that poll by like 1.5 points. Donald Trump was a very, very close second then. But this is the first poll I've seen that didn't have Donald Trump at the very top.
Yes, that's an interesting poll. We actually did a similar poll here in Oregon at the Oregon State Fair. I think one of the booths had a poll, but they had peanuts, and you got to put your peanut in the jar that you wanted to win, and Trump was winning in a landslide. So I don't know what the final result was, but will be interesting to see who's making it to the very end. I'm definitely in favor of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think he's probably got about 60% of support among just general Republicans overall. I expect that to be the margin in the early primaries, and I think anybody who's still in the primaries is probably going to drop out pretty quickly after that.
Yeah, I saw a headline recently that said that his support has increased since they released the visual images of his mugshot, and he has an increase in support from Republicans. So I think that what they're trying to do in their persecution is definitely working against them. So it'll be interesting to see what else they have up their sleeves and if they can try to make anything stick.
Yeah, it will be very interesting, and we'll follow it all here. All right, so next up, Young Republicans of Oregon interviewed Will Lathrop for Attorney General on their podcast this week. He is the first Republican candidate to announce for Attorney General.
I listened to that, and it was so good, and I am looking forward to hearing him speak again. He has a lot of experience in law enforcement and dealing with trafficking in other parts of the world, and I think it's going to really be a benefit to what we're dealing with here in Oregon. So I'll definitely check that story out.
Oh, yeah. The next one was interesting. So House GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik released a statement about some reports that the Biden administration is telling New York City to send their illegal immigrants to an airport in her district to be housed, which is, it's really funny and really hypocritical, is that all the members of Congress from New York City constantly vote for an open border. She has constantly voted against an open border, and now they're saying, hey, the people who voted for the problem need to send the problem to the person who voted against it. It's just like, really, guys?
Yeah, it sounds like they're all starting to panic. They created a problem and they don't have a solution.
Yeah. Yep. House Republicans have one. They've already passed a border protection bill. The Senate needs to take it up, and if they don't like what the House has, they can put their own proposal forward. But the border needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, it's definitely more than emergency right now.
Yeah. All right. This was a little more of an informational piece. And this is something that happened earlier this summer. The Federal Reserve launched their own transaction handling service. So if you ever use something like Zelle with your bank, this is a service that the bank pays so that you can have immediate transfers of cash between different bank accounts. So I could send Sheri $20 over Zelle, and the bank pays Zelle to do that. The Federal Reserve launched its own competitor, and the kicker with FedNow is that it is free for banks to use.
Okay, well, I don't think I'm going to be taking advice from the Federal Reserve this week, but thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to see if any banks take them up on it. I know I'd be a little skeptical if my bank said, "Hey, now you can use FedNow to send people money." I'd be like, it might just start mailing people cash again.
Yes.
See, next up, Governor Tina Kotek appointed Jamie McLeod Skinner to the state's Watershed Enhancement Board as she announced another set of appointments for state offices that are going to the state Senate. For those who don't know, Jamie McLeod Skinner is a former Santa Clara, California city councilor who moved to Oregon and has since run for office here 3 times. She ran for Congress twice and Secretary of State. Didn't win any of those elections, but has made a bit of a splash and just announced that she's running for Congress again.
Okay, well, I think if people go to our website, can they see the full list of nominees? I believe they can.
Yes, we did provide the PDF is the one that was shared by the governor, and you can read that PDF yourself.
Great. All right. What else do you have?
Congressman Cliff Bentz has announced upcoming town halls in his district. These are town halls that are in Northeast Oregon. His district goes from Aloha all the way to Jackson County. It's a big one, and he does what he can to talk with his constituents. So these are the district town halls that are happening on the northeast side of the state.
That is great. So it sounds like those are happening all over the state.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot during this congressional recess period. He's done them all over the district, and he's doing everything he can to meet with all the locals. Next up, our Democratic Secretary of State, her Audits Division, released a report suggesting that red flag laws are not being used enough. So these are they're called emergency protective orders. The idea is that if you believe a relative is in danger of harming themselves or other people and they possess firearms, you can tell the police can tell a judge, and the judge can make a determination about whether or not they should continue to have firearms. And if the judge makes that determination, then those firearms will be seized.
So people can read a lot more about that topic if they go to our website. There's a lot of information there.
Yeah, you can read a press release that was released, and then we also have a link. The Secretary of State does have that entire report available for people to read. The big report is a lot longer, but there is a smaller, more succinct summary that people can get to.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to check that out, Alex.
Next up, Clackamas County is observing Suicide Prevention Month in September. So the county released a list of events that they're hosting and ways to help make sure that people who are going through a rough time know what resources are available so they can cut down on this mental health issue in Clackamas County.
That is really, really great. Good job, Clackamas County.
And last up, the Coos County Commissioners passed a resolution rejecting new COVID mandates in their county, and you can read the text of that resolution. We also do have a video of the meeting where they discussed it. And once again, we also made sure to put the timestamp of where that meeting starts. So if you go to our website, press play on that YouTube video, you'll be able to watch right when that discussion starts rather than having to go through 3 hours of video to find a 10-minute discussion. It's all right there.
I'm going to definitely check that one out. And let's just talk about COVID mandates for a minute if you're up for it.
Oh, yeah.
So I love that Coos County took the initiative on just saying they're going to reject all of it. And it's definitely worth the read if folks haven't checked it out.
Yeah.
So have you heard any COVID? What are you thinking about these mandates coming back?
I'm hearing louder and louder whispers. There were some things people were kind of talking about recently, and they grew from people just kind of posting vaguely on Facebook to, now as a legislative staffer, I'm hearing reports of things that are happening in the Capitol as people are gearing up. Everybody's trying to go, nope, we're not doing this again. Everybody who was opposed to it last time is trying to go, hey, we're not going to be able to repeat what happened last time. It's simply just not going to happen. And I think the goal right now is to try and stop it before it starts, because there are some people who probably think that we never should have stopped the mandates at all.
They're
Yeah.
home and stay home forever and never come back out.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I'm going to watch the other counties, and I think that it would be in their best interest to follow that lead strongly. So good job for Coos County. And we're definitely going to be following the headlines in the future to see if, what the updates are.
That's right. Well, thank you, Sheri, for joining me. This has been Right Now Oregon with your weekly news headlines.